I don't know how much value I have in this universe, but I do know that I made a few people happier than they would have been without me. And as long as I know that, I'm as rich as I ever need to be.
Hey kid, what time is that?
It's time to refresh.
In the 2000s, I started a Kenny Hayes fanzine, which was a CD with 10 rarities on it, and at the end was a little sample pack with a few picks and hi-hats and claps and stuff, and a PDF version of the actual fanzine itself, because I was reviewing gear that I was using at the time, and then I'd have discographies of Clubstar or KB Project.
So was it on like a subscription base?
Sort of. You could buy it. It was bought outright, basically. I was offering it for a particular amount of money, and then people would pay me, and I'd post it to them.
Oh, excellent!
But I think it lasted for about. I think there was about 40 issues, and then I ended up doing something else.
Are they available anywhere?
Well, they're all listed on Discogs.
I was going to say I've seen the fanzine on Discogs, but I don't. There's no traceability of it.
I think the thing is, if you're a collector, I find that a lot of people who are into bounce music are only collectors of bounce music. Not many of them liked my my trancey stuff or my other aliases, you know. But that's what the fanzine does. It covers all aliases.
I think sometimes I get obsessive with producers, and it's not necessarily because like I've always said this on most podcasts. I say for me, Ferry Corsten's the GOAT when it comes to that classic trance sound. Yeah. Right. But the thing is, I'm a Ferry Corsten fan of he does synthwave stuff as well, and I go and I check that out. Yeah. And I'm a fan of that person, and I would subscribe to that thing. Yes. But whereas you see some people, it's like, that's good, but it's not his trance stuff. Yes. Do you know what I mean? Or for you, it might be it's good, but it's not his bounce. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm coming from.
I think going back to the 80s, Paul Hardcastle was perhaps a big influence to me in the 80s, because he was a synth player and he was making great synth music. But primarily, he's into jazz, and then he started a jazz project. I didn't like it at all. So
the only type of music I don't like is jazz. So if you tried something else, you maybe just follow him down that direction. I guess.
I suppose it's like the same with me and my Chance Horizons project. I know that there's a few guys out there who love it, but the majority of people who are into bounce probably wouldn't like it at all, because it's not got any energy in it, because it's all mellow stuff.
Well, I get like, if I hear a good vocalist, for instance. So, for instance, I've been on the way down to Jen's last week. I was listening to the Cranberries. Oh yeah, right. Yeah. And the lead singer of the Cranberries, just an amazing voice.
She's got a voice that you either love or hate, though, hasn't she? She's very in the middle. Yeah. Because I did a version of Zombie with a client a few weeks back. Yeah. But it was resung by somebody else. Yeah. So it didn't have that raspiness of her, but it made it more tolerable to me, because I don't like the original singer of Cranberries.
Okay. And well, anyways, obviously I found myself down a rabbit hole, and she joined a band in like 2000. I'm gonna might get these numbers wrong, but I think it was 2016 before she died, and she was in a band called Dark, like DARK, right? And it stood for something or whatever. I listened to it and I was like, wow. But obviously, because I've just went down the rabbit hole of following what that person's up to. I know it's a singer, it's not an engineer, it's different.
That's the equivalent to a Friday night for me, when I'm sat in front of my laptop having a drink, and then I go, oh, I love this tune. Yeah. And then it says, listeners also bought this or listened to this, and you go to that, and then that leads you to something else, and that leads to something else.
Do you not think, for me, obviously, I've got my day job, I've got the podcast, I've got producing music, I've got obviously being a dad, everything. I'm not sure if I do it on a Friday. Fridays are quite hectic for me, but I there's one day during the week where I sit down and listen to music, what's new that week, or maybe stuff that I've had to dig out and I find whatever. Do you find that your Friday night, when you would drink and you're listening through music and stuff, do you find that your happy place?
Well, it used to be, because it used to be a regular thing. It's less regular now, because I've got my new routine is, say a client finishes at 7:30, I go in, speak to my wife, find out what day she's had, we make tea, we're sitting down in front of the telly, and we watch a favourite programme. That's basically every night, you know.
What's your favourite programme?
Ooh, that's hard. At the moment, we're watching a series called This Is Us.
I like that.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
It's like a family dynamic in it, but through over a course of like 30 years or whatever it is.
I like that. But yeah, like I always find that where I sit down, I don't need to think about how to fucking what volume a fucking kick drum should be or what synth to use. I'm just sitting there and I'm appreciating music for what it is as a fan.
Yeah,
and I'm listening. And
my new thing is so say I'm watching the telly and I'm watching a film and some music comes on and I go, oh, I like that. Get my phone, Shazam, straight away. So you should go through my Shazam list. It's huge. Even when I'm sat at the lights, waiting for the lights to change, and I'm listening to the radio and something comes on, get me Shazam out and get that. So because they're all inspiration for A, just listening to, and B, for making tunes.
Yeah.
So
I find listening to a lot of, like, as I say, 80s and synth, I find my riff ideas from that. I'm not saying I copy them, because obviously you hear everyone do the Eurasia, don't go sort of dun-dun-dun-dun.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not like that, but I might hear a melody in my head and I'll be like, do you know something? If you just moved a few notes around, that's a bounce riff, that.
Well, do you know what's mad is there are only so many chords.
Yeah.
And they've probably been used a billion times through the course of the history of music. So it's quite easy to say, those 4 chords are great, or that 3rd chord's great, or anything like that, you know. So you can rub anything you want as long as you put it in a different key, and then you can get away with it that way.
I do it all the time.
Yeah.
That's literally.
Well, MIDI files seem to be the go-to if you're not a musician, you know, and because it's much easier trying to find a sound to go with MIDI notes than the other way around.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, I've just bought a pack, which I never knew existed, of chords.
Right.
And they're all like chords that work with other chords, and they're all put into folders, so you know which chords work with which chords.
Okay.
Now, I've never used MIDI files in that way before, but it's a source of inspiration for getting ideas for new tracks.
I get a bit weird. So like when I'm sitting in my happy place, I start looking up like why people use these obscure chords for this record, or like, and it's like another rabbit hole in itself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, or how can I like transpose that into a bounce tune, maybe a certain key change or something like that. I'm dead obsessive with it, and it's sometimes a bane because you can't listen to music sometimes for what it is. If someone sends you a track and you're like, if you've got a minute, can you listen to this? I'll put it on, and I'm not listening to it as a tune. I'm listening to it to like debug it. Do you know what I mean? It's not healthy, I don't think. But it's something.
I mean, music wise, I don't listen to music for pleasure as much as I used to. Mainly, I listen to it, like I said, in the car when I'm driving my wife to work in the morning and back. Because I work from home now, I don't go very far. Where when I worked all around the world, I'd be on a 40-minute train journey there and a 40-minute train journey back, so that was the greatest time to stick my headphones in and listen to new music. But nowadays my clients educate me in new music because they're the ones bringing the tunes to me. This is good, who's this? So you know, it's Joel Corey's new one or whatever, you know.
I've found that with John. So John comes to me the other day, he's like, listen to this tune. I was like, oh, that's good. It sounds like it was made in like 1999. And he was like, oh no, this come out like, I heard it on the radio, it's on Radio 1. I was like, okay. I don't listen, not that I don't listen to new music, but I really took advantage of the function on Spotify, do you know, where it's it builds purpose playlists for you.
Yes.
So like, let's just say, oh, you've been listening to drum and bass.
Yeah.
We've built a drum and bass playlist off the back of what drum and bass you've been listening to, and I love that because obviously it starts to niche it off a little bit, and it's like, okay, whatever, well, I can think that, but then you find yourself down another rabbit hole of music. Do you know what I mean?
That's true.
I want to get into a couple more questions, if that's okay. What are your thoughts on gain staging, and if you don't do this, what's your preferred method? And that's from Ryan Neal.
See, gain staging, if you do it properly, can leave your levels so low you're pushing really hard to get more volume in there. I've done the legit way of gain staging, but I have my own way of doing it now. I have my master on -6, and all my buses and levels of things, they're all lower than 0, because you need to give yourself as much headroom as possible for that final stage of mastering. And so gain staging, I use it, but not in the way most people would use gain staging. It's my own method that I use, and it works. So
for me personally, gain staging is, I wouldn't say I do it, but obviously you do it, but like, I'm not there like, this is part of the process. So for me, I used to set my kick drum to say -8 on the mixer, and I just work around the kick drum.
Yeah.
And essentially, I do it -6 now because just push it a little bit more, I get a cleaner mix. I find, anyways, and just everything revolves around the sort of kick drum in bounce music.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's my gain stage.
The loudest point of any mix should be your kick and bass, shouldn't it? Because they're the main balls of your production, aren't they? I think my kick is -1.67 because that's where
You've got your master bus on though, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got my -6 on my master bus, the minus whatever on my kick, and they're all minuses really. Because as soon as I see any yellow instead of green, I think, well, I'll pull that back a bit, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's Kenny's gain staging process. As long as if it's yellow, it's no good. pull it back a bit.
But they talk about redlining in DJing all the time, don't they?
I've never. Maybe because I'm a bit of a pussy when it comes to it, but I've never went to the point where my volumes have been in the red or anything. I don't know. Obviously, if you turn it right up, it will. But I've never had the need to push it that far.
No, I mean, to be fair, a lot of my masters are coming. So I watched this video on loudness, and everything that we should be bothered about now is in LUFS. And Streaky did this video, and he says that rock and pop should be coming in about -8 LUFS, but for dance music that can be a bit louder. So he says -7. So that's what I'm aiming for now. I think a lot of my tracks come in at the RMS is about -8, and the LUFS is -7, and that's loud enough. I mean, I have had some tracks coming in at -6, which is loud.
Loud, yeah, definitely.
But I think, see, DJs back in the day, they used trims and stuff to adjust those levels to make sure that everything was of a constant level. Nowadays, we're all pretty lazy as DJs because everything tends to be the same volume, unless you've got a really bad production, in which case you've got to whack it up.
Yeah.
But I think the loudness wars of the past few years have helped us not to push too
much,
hard.
yeah. Sometimes, like, I like quite a dynamic mix as well. Like, I think sometimes you hear, especially a lot of the harder music, you push it, and when you push it, they're just pushing it that too much. If you just pull back on it a little bit and appreciated the sound, it wouldn't sound as distorted or saturated or do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's what's magical about a lot of the analog stuff. Everyone says, oh, you can't beat the analog sound. It's not because it's an analog sound, it's because it hasn't been pushed to its extremities.
Well, that's the madness about back in the day. Everything was analog, and then everyone wanted, oh no, we want a cleaner sound, everything became digital, and now everyone's going, oh no, it's too clean now. I want the analog warmth back. So all these tape plugins now and stuff like that. So I've bought this console thing called N Console by Sonymous, and what it is, you put one of them on your master bus, and then you use the other one for your channels.
Right. Okay.
And they link up together. So it just adds console warmth across the board to your mix.
Nice.
But it's quite hard to set up when you're doing everything else.
Yeah. I think a lot of these more advanced plugins as well don't really fit the mold to bounce music. Because I've discovered that. I was trying to get like an analog finish on one of the tracks because I wanted it to sound like it was made in like sort of 2000. And in the end up, I just put like a little vinyl stutter underneath, like, do you know what I mean, like crackle, and it gave the same warm effect. So.
Right. Well, we were talking about 80s, and I've bought a number of plugins that are all based around that genre, even effects that were classed as the main ones in the time, just so I can do a new 80s thing that I want to do. Yeah. And
send it to me when it's
done. Well, I can't wait to do that. It'd be great.
Excellent. There's two people who've asked a similar sort of question. I'll ask both of them, and then you can give your answer.
Okay.
Most people know how to make a bass/donk sound these days, but how much dynamics would said person put into a sound to fatten it out instead of layering it with a sub bass? And that's from Ryan T. Thompson. And at the same time, what happened to the massive bass heavy tracks, and why has everything moved away from the bass line? And that's from Fid.
Right.
It's similar if you want to join the question together.
I think sometimes when you're using a donk sample, say, if it's been taken off vinyl, it's been produced already, so you shouldn't have to do an awful lot to it, to be fair. And a lot of people have a tendency to layer it with another bass or put a sub bass underneath it, and then wonder why the mixes sound muddy, because there's too much in there.
Yeah.
So sometimes less is more, isn't it? You know, and I don't make donks. I've got plenty of donk samples to choose from. Plus, I've got plenty of basses as well. And I very, very rarely use a synth bass. I know Shanks has been using one from Serum at the moment, which sounds really good. And a few of the other lads are doing the same thing. And I think with bass is so important to get right the bass sound in your mix. Because, like we said before, your kick drum and your bass are the bottom end of your mix, and if you haven't got them right, you'll just have a thin sounding donk, and there's absolutely no point to that. But I think if bass sounds need a boost, what I would do is try and find an EQ that can do the job for me, and because I was talking to Key this morning about the Mag EQ4, which is Plugin Alliance, and that's got a preset on it called Synth Bass. Now stick that on your donk or any bass that you're using, and it's sudden weight to your bass sound. But you still got to get the balance of it right, because when you use a compressor, compressors clamp down on your sound and therefore take away some of the bottom end. So you have to compensate by using an EQ, and I think people have a tendency to go, right, slap EQ on that, slap EQ on that, slap EQ. You don't need to. You know, you should. Your ears are your best judge, and once it starts sounding too bassy, then it's time to rewind and go back to the beginning, I think.
Yeah, I've been talking to a couple of producers, and everyone's got a different stance on everything. For me personally, I always put, say, like if you've got making a donk tune in particular, I'll always put a sub in, because for me, as a donk, it's never enough for like a bouncy kick and bass, in my opinion, but that is subjective. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I've talked to a couple of other guys nowadays, all they're doing is putting the donk into a track and boosting the low end of the donk sound just to get a little bit more bass of what they need.
That works.
I get that, but so Fids basically said, I think this is in relation to a post he put up the other week. He said when you were standing outside a club and you could feel the bass hitting you outside the club as you're in the queue waiting to get in.
Yeah.
I think if you're looking for that sort of sound, if you listen to, say, like hardstyle and stuff like that now, and the sort of harder end of
when it
hard
kicks
dance
in with
music,
that tuned kick, it's really heavy,
and you can hear it from, especially if you're a festival and stuff, you can hear it from miles away. In bounce music, I've found sometimes that I've had to go back into a mix and muddy it up a little bit.
I think it's only the same as if you were listening to hard dance music, like from Nucleus days and stuff like that. That's not overly bass heavy. I think bounce as a genre is more in keeping with that than it is, say, hardstyle, which is primarily bass heavy. You know, I think different genres bring different weights to them.
Oh, definitely. So I'm saying if I put too much of a sub in one of my tracks and it to me it sounds nice and clean and stuff, I've had to go back into the mix and go, right, well, what I'll do is I'll just pull that back a bit and make the donk more prominent. And then it's like, although it's not to my preference, it's when you mix them from one tune to the next, it fits much better, so you're fitting their mould. Do you know what I mean?
I find that so say you're using a limiter on your master out, limiters are designed to turn things up, make things louder, so just by making simple adjustments to your mix, certain elements of the mix stand out more. So say you got your kick and your bass, and your bass isn't loud enough, the minute you turn it up, you'll notice your kick goes down. Because the limiter is trying to do limit everything. So it's the same with, like, when your vocals in the mix and you go, I can't turn my vocal up any louder. Have you tried turning other things down?
I get that.
And then all of a sudden your vocal just comes to the surface, you know.
I've found as well with vocals, more so in bounce nowadays, the vocals are much louder than they once were. Have you picked up on that?
I mean, it's weird actually, because it depends. This is the other thing as well, of course. When people use studio acapellas, why are you EQing a studio acapella? A studio acapella has already been EQ'd. It's
Yeah.
already been mastered. It already sounds great. You should just be able to drop it right in your mix, and it sounds brilliant.
Just being your devil's advocate here. What if it is to fit the mix of that track though?
Well, in what way? Because
So-
is it a dry acapella? Is it a wet acapella?
so-
if it's a wet acapella, you're
Yeah.
going to have to do something to make it sit right.
Yeah. So let's say for argument's sake, it's a dry a cappella, but it was made for say a funky house tune, where
Well, that's just a level thing.
yeah. But would you not EQ it? Maybe.
Does it sound good when you load it in?
Yeah, if it sounds good, then use it. I get that.
Yeah.
As I say,
I think the common thing with most engineers and producers or people, beat makers, whatever you want to call them, is I need to do this, I need to do that. You don't really need to do anything. I was talking to Key this morning about, have you ever tried making a tune without using plugins? You can do it, and it might sound great, but when you look at the wave afterwards, it peaks everywhere, it's all over everywhere. So that's why we use SSL G-Bus to glue the mix together and make it sound more coherent, and sausage fattener and all those things to give it weight and whatever. And the loudness was block tracks where even in the breakdown it's like that.
yeah. It might be subtractively little tiny bit less, but it's still like a solid square.
That's it.
I get that. Yeah. I just want to do this one thing with you as well. Word association. We didn't do it last one because it's a fairly recent new feature to the podcast.
Okay.
So I'm going to read a word out to you. You just tell me the first word that comes to your head. Is that all right?
Yeah.
So this is word association with Kenny Hayes, KB project,
See the light.
all around the world.
I've drawn a blank on that one. Korea.
Rebound Studios.
Korea.
Biggest production.
Cleopatra.
King or Queen of the 80s.
Billy Idol.
I like Billy Idol. Hardware.
M1.
Starman.
Bounce music.
BTID.
Bounce music.
First record deal.
Sony.
Rebound Productions tune of 2023.
Ooh. No favoritism, but I'd say one of Key Hughes is that Diggy D'Agostini, or it's got a foreign name to it.
Okay, I'll have to listen to that. I don't think I've heard it.
I dropped it at a gig not long back and it went off. So
Excellent.
there's probably a dozen more. But
Oh yeah. Top of my head right now. And biggest inspiration producer.
Ooh. Well, we'd normally go down the road to saying Trevor Horn or somebody like that, but I'm obsessed with music because of Stock Aitken and Waterman. So.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair, mate. That's fair. Not a bad shout on there. These are just a couple more questions now. What's one pet peeve you have with the industry?
Ageism.
Ageism? Oh, shout. Yeah, do you know that could be the best answer yet, that one. I think it could be, because, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, just because you're of a certain age, it's like...
Doesn't mean you still can't make great music.
Yeah, and I think it works both ends of the spectrum as well. I've seen some young lads come through who's been really put off by the scene because they've been treated like shit because of their age. On the flip side, I've seen a few older guys who's like one in particular who's went, I think I'm just getting too old for it. It's like, and I'm like, well, what makes you say that? It's like, well, people won't give them a second look, and it's like, it's not I get it, but it's not fair, is it? Like, if you're a good musician, you're a good musician. You wouldn't say that to somebody like, I don't know, Sting or someone like that. Do you know what I mean?
You would never think that a good career with a lot of achievements would be a hindrance to you making music in the future.
Yeah, I get that.
But it's a pendulum. You know, you start from nothing, you work your way up, and then you're sliding down the other side. You know, and because times change and people want different things, and the thing is, record companies are run by a lot of young people nowadays, not older
Yeah.
people.
Have you seen? I think I'm going to get this wrong. I think it's called Bad Dads with Bill Burr.
Oh, I know of it, but I've not seen
Right,
it.
watch that with your missus, right?
Right.
There's something in there. There's this guy, he comes and buys out there. They would do T-shirt jerseys. I'll give you the base of the story. They do T-shirt jerseys, like retro ones.
Right.
And this company buys them out. But they're sending this young operations thing, and he's too... So they're a bit... If I'm going to be, like, liberal about it, they're a bit, like... too old school, where they'll say some things and it's like, oh, you shouldn't say that in 2023. But this guy's a complete other end, and he's like, over 33 years old, redundancy, and it's like, what? 33? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's worth a watch if you think of that.
It's on my list.
On the flip side, what's one thing that gives you great satisfaction?
Great satisfaction. Life at the moment.
Yeah, shout. I like it. You give a good one.
I'm at my happiest. I've got a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing.
Some would say great.
Yeah, I've got a great family.
Yeah.
And at times, despite of the horrendousness that was COVID and what's come out of it, I'm probably in my best place at the moment.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Honestly, I love it, mate. I really do.
Apart from I'm really tired.
This next one is throwback attack. So I'm going to read a sentence to you, and you just tell me the first thing that comes to your head. Okay?
Right. Okay.
So this is throwback attack with Kenny Hayes. What song do you think of when you think back to primary school?
Hymns.
Hymns? Any in particular? Shine, Jesus, shine.
No. If I had to think of one off the top of my head, it'd be something like Kumbaya or something like that.
Kumbaya,
Yeah.
excellent. What song do you think of when you think back to secondary school?
Secondary school. Right, so secondary school was when I discovered music.
So there's already a song in your head, I can tell.
Oh, Axel F, Harold Faltermeyer, 1985, the summer. I was 14.
Excellent. I love it. My son's obsessed with that tune at the minute. And you know something? I've been thinking about doing a bounce remix, but he'll just...
You'll end up like Crazy Frog.
No, but like, do you know what I'm coming from? Like, although that riff is just amazing, it's very simple with the keys it's used and everything like that. But for whatever reason, if you play that riff anywhere at all, it's just a cheese bomb, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, but
I think it goes hand in hand with Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
And Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah.
Then Nile Rodgers took over 3 and ruined it. And then they're making the new one, and all I can think of is, please get Harold Faltermeyer to make the music.
Excellent, I love it. What song do you think of when you think back to your first set of decks? I know you've got a set of decks, so I know you've got a pair of decks.
First set of decks, songs. See, my first set of decks was in the 90s. So you probably think mid-90s. So we're probably looking at some old Italian house record, probably.
Excellent.
Probably Wood Allen, Airport 89, or Co-Imperial. That's another classic.
Okay. By the way, Tallow Bounce series, please pursue with that.
I restarted it this year, and there's 3 on the go that I haven't finished.
Okay.
But they'll be done ready for next year.
Excellent, that's what I like to hear. What song do you think back to when you think to the first days of going out?
First days of going out. So the first days of going out, 88, 89, and we were saying before about 1989, and that was a great year. So mainly house music. So Musical Freedom by Paul Simpson and Adiva. That was a good one. French Kiss, Little Louie. That was the big one, because that's the only record I know of where I was completely embarrassed on the dance floor because it slows down halfway through, and a woman starts moaning. I'm in the middle of the record, and then it starts speeding back up again, and you just think, how do you dance to that?
What song do you think of when you think back to your golden era?
Golden era. So defined.
Where did music peak for you?
Well,
not as you
as a listener.
As a listener, yeah.
God, music. I don't think music has ever peaked for me. to be fair, because I've moved on from 80s, I've moved into Italian house of the 90s, then house music in general through the whole of that period, trance music, funky house in the 2000s, drum and bass. There's always something new genre-wise to come out that makes you go, yes, I love this, I want to be part of that, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, trance was the big one for me. That's the thing where I heard and went, I want to make music like that, you know.
I think I'd say that as well.
Yeah.
I think if there was I think personally, if there was a bigger trance scene locally, like, and I'm talking where you could go to a nightclub, trance music being played on a Saturday night, I think I'd have went down that avenue. It was that, to me, there's nothing more like spine tingling and hairs on the back of your neck standing up than hearing an amazing chord progression on a breakdown or a big hands in the air riff. Like, for me, just peaking.
The trance really kicked in for me when I went on holiday in 1998 to Corfu, and I was in a nightclub with a bunch of friends, and every time the police drove past, they turned all the music off and you were stood in the darkness, and then when the police moved on, they turned it all back on. And the two records that I thought, I've got to get them when I get home: Grease 2000, 3 drives.
Class.
And Cafe Del Mar, the 3-in-1 mix.
Nice.
You know, it's by Energy 52, and those records, they're not typically trance records because they've not got the big trance riffs in. But that started the ball rolling for me.
See, for trance music personally, we'll tie up now if that's all right as well.
Yeah.
But for trance music personally, I think that trance music was really, really good in like 95, 96, 97, where people didn't know what it was yet. It was still like an offspring of like...
It was the...
it was house music.
Primary school version of trance, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It hadn't quite matured at that point.
And I'm going to sort of give backward on myself here, with regards to like Ferry Corson, like I said before, he's a god, but him with that sound and the super saw sort of drove trance in that one direction. It didn't. There was a lot of tunes that sort of maybe in the mid to late 90s, that production style stopped because everyone went in that direction, and it's evolved into all. I know there's you get your progressive.
It was
and
a
stuff
bit
like
tougher,
that,
wasn't it? Trance stopped being more mellower and it became a bit tougher at a period. Yeah. And BPMs tended to be around about 138, 140.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. Like, I like it when there was a variation, because a lot of the times I do want to listen to that style of trance. Yeah. But do you know when you're just like, right, okay, I don't want it that tough today. Yeah. I just want something just to.
I'm a big fan of emotional trance.
Yeah.
I like trance tracks that move me when I listen to them.
Yeah.
Like goose pimples on my arm, and I think, wow, that's incredible. And there's quite a lot of that.
Excellent.
And they're not necessarily big hits either. You know, you just listen to it and you go, that's my favourite list.
Yeah. Lovely. We're just going to type today if that's okay, mate.
Yes.
I know you're a very busy man. Caught in between 2 sessions today, so you know it's
phone hasn't stopped beeping for the last 10 minutes.
Just want to say thanks for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Great.
If you've enjoyed this, let Kenny know. Send him a message and say how amazing it is.
2 things. First thing, KB Project USB.
Yes, we need to talk about that. I apologise. So the KB Project USB, I seen it advertised the other day and I thought, do you know, this would be special.
It's actually the definitive collection of everything we've ever done.
Oh, okay. Even like the official remixes and stuff.
There's a couple of things on there as well that people probably wouldn't expect. Ben and I did a Remixers Movement 1 for Ministry of Sound.
Okay.
About 15 years ago, and that's on there as well. So I stuck that on as well. But there's there's absolutely tons of rare gems on there. A lot of people have got all the usual stuff, but there's loads of extras on there.
There is 1 or 2 tracks that I don't have, which I'll be getting the USB for just to get, because I think whether they weren't released, general release, or somebody's uploaded like some.
But there's 5 exclusive remixes on there, so I can tell you what they are now because we've done them.
Go on then.
Danny, I Can't Sleep at Night.
Right, what is this, a new mix of it?
Yeah, so what I've done is I've updated the original.
Okay.
Because the original was 143, so I've made it 150, I've replayed everything exactly the same, apart from a couple of little elements I've added to it. That
could be the greatest KB track, by the way.
It still sounds great, you know. Neocortex elements, we redid that.
Great tune.
See the Light, there's a new version of that on there that Ben's been playing quite a bit of recently. That's 3, isn't it? There's 2 more. What was the other two? The Made in Limb. The Good Looking Kid. That's what it's called. It's
Sorry, I know that tune.
Beautiful Child.
I
redid that to sound like the original as
you put
well.
it on your SoundCloud recently, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right.
I've seen it. Great track, by the way.
And there is one. Vortex Every Time.
Oh, amazing. If you were going to pick some of the greatest KB tracks to redo as well, like, to be honest, them what they've got, there's nothing wrong with the originals, but if you've give it that like 2023 shine.
Yeah. Well, some people have said, are you redoing this? Are you redoing that? Because obviously those ones they've mentioned do sound a bit dated, but we could be there all day then, couldn't we?
Yeah.
So maybe it's a future project that we can.
I think you doing Elements. I think that's a really good one to do, because that does sound a bit dated.
Yeah, it does. It does. I've always felt that the kick drum's quite heavy, and but we've kept some of the bits that you remember and love from it, but we've also given it a bit of a new twist. Like so,
modern production. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
as well. Do you know what I mean?
That you can get that from bouncecd.com.
Lovely. I'll be all over that as well. Get on it. Did you say there was one more thing you wanted to mention as well?
Just the Rebound Studio in general. So we're fully booked till November, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to do a session, just get in touch.
Excellent. So, best place to get in touch with him would be on the Kenny Hayes Facebook page.
Yes.
And
I do have a Rebound Studio group.
Okay.
It's a private group, but if you put a request in, I'll accept it straight away.
Excellent.
And there's also the RPL digital page, but that's more for the releases from the label.
I just want to say as well, if I'm going to be sort of selling your studio out to people, I can't express how much, even if you're a producer, back in 2016 we did a tune together, and came in and sort of did a track, and if you're an aspiring producer and you think you know it all as well, and like Kenny will agree as well, it's always a big learning curve. Kenny said to me before off pod, you're always still learning. He's got new techniques for his mastering and everything like that. If you're an aspiring producer, it won't do you any harm to come and sit and do a collaboration with Kenny. You will walk away with whether a new production technique or a new way to write.
You'll definitely learn something.
There's something. And if you're somebody who can't write music and you can't produce music, but you have ideas, just give him a message. He's like the go-to man. You are the go-to man.
Yeah, I get messages of people all the time, and when they're music related, because I love talking about music, I'm quite happy to respond and let them know. Yeah.
Excellent. Just want to say thank you. Where can people find you as well? Have you got anything coming up? Or
well, when's this going out?
It will be a week today. A week on Monday. Sorry.
A week on Monday. So is that the beginning of December?
Yeah, second, third, fourth. It'll be the 5th of December.
Right. Well, I'm doing one of the bonus ball lotteries for a session in the Rebound Studio.
Oh, get all over this.
That'll be the end of the week this gets released.
Okay, right. Well, what we'll do is, if you are going to create like a Facebook post or something.
Yes.
What we'll do is I'll put a link in the description now to that. If you've got this far into it and you want to be part of the bonus ball, I might even throw my name in there myself and get a little club on the go. Follow the link and you'll find the Facebook post and get yourself on that bonus ball. A lot of people do these, and I honestly, for what you pay, I know there's the risk of not winning it, but for what you pay, it's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
I mean, it's mad. It's because the last one I did, it went out straight away. It filled really quickly, and the funny thing is, Glyn Ferris won it, and he's not claimed it yet. so if you're watching, Glyn, get in the studio.
How long ago was that?
That was last year.
A year and he's still not done it. If you do get it, please just claim it. It's stupid. But
you have two choices. You can either do the session online or you can come to the studio in Warrington. And
Excellent. And have you got any gigs coming up?
Yes, I've got. So after that point, I'm doing Rave Kids in Newcastle, and I'm doing BTID Boxing Day. Now I'll be in room 2 doing a Kenny Hayes set.
Lovely.
So that'll be one to listen to.
So what Kenny Hayes said, what does that comprise of?
Well, this year, as we spoke before, I've done a lot of songs this year with clients. Many I've not road tested, and some I really want to. So that's what I'll be playing.
So,
an hour of my favourites from this year.
Yeah, I'm still of the old school mind. If I seen a Kenny Hayes on the flyer, I was thinking you're going to play trance. Do you know what I mean? But honestly, I love that. I absolutely love that. Get yourselves down to that if you're all about it, because I mean, if he's doing X amount of tunes a year, he's got a big back catalogue of all fresh, essentially fresh music as well.
Yeah.
So you could be hearing it for the first time.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for coming on, mate. I hope you've enjoyed it. Share this with your mates, and I'll see you later.